Hi, this is Jessica Valenti, and this is our second video in the new Nation video series, Ask Jessica. So this week, I'm actually not answering one question from one specific person, but a lot of people asked me variations on basically the same question. It's a question I get asked a lot at college campuses. And it's basically, how do I convince my father, my brother, my boyfriend, my friend, my roommate, that feminism is important and that sexism is a thing and that it exists. And generally these questions say, this person is a good person, they see injustice in the world, they don't necessarily see it with women, they think that women in the US don't have it so bad, that we should stop complaining. So this is what I would say. The first piece of advice I would give is to make sure that you're not talking to brick walls. I think generally in most feminists' lives, there's always that person who's not necessarily interested in engaging, but they're just interested in pushing your buttons. Don't engage with that person. Think of that person as like a real life troll. I think that we should conserve our activist energy, which is a really precious resource, and really use it towards the people who are interested in having substantive conversations and debate. And for those people, I think what we can do is try to meet them where they're at. And remember, that not everyone you're talking to has read about feminism, has thought about these issues before, and that's okay. So one tactic that I like to use that I think can be useful is to try to use pop culture as an entry point for conversation. So maybe you want to send them a blog post that criticizes the sexism in Game of Thrones, if that's a show that they like. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be something that's critical, something that's pointing out the sexism of something. It can be something that's pointing out the feminism of a musician that they really enjoy. But I think that starting there can be a really fruitful place for conversations. I would also say try not to get angry. And I know that can be a difficult thing when you're talking about such sensitive and important topics, but I think it's important to try not to put people on the defensive, because that often sort of shuts down the conversation and they'll shut down and they won't listen to you. So one way to do that, to not get too angry and not put people on the defensive, is to ask them a lot of questions, ask them about their life, ask them why they believe that pay inequity isn't a problem, right? If that's something they believe, really, why do you think that? Tell me more about that. And the more that you ask people questions, the more they're going to feel listened to, and the more likely they are going to be to listen to you when you make your points. And oftentimes, the more you let people talk about why they believe something will click with you, and you're like, oh, okay, that's why they think that. And you'll find sort of entry points to make your argument and to make your points. And I'd also say, you're challenging really socially ingrained beliefs when you talk about feminism and when you talk about sexism. So you should expect some pushback. It probably means you're doing something right if someone's a little bit uncomfortable. And that's even something you can say to them. You can say, like, it's all right if you're a little uncomfortable. It makes sense that you'd be a little uncomfortable. These are really intense beliefs. These are stuff that we're socialized to believe. It's okay if you feel uncomfortable with the conversation, and that can put people at ease as well. So the other thing, this idea that women in the US don't really have it so bad compared to the intense misogyny abroad. It is certainly true that there is a tremendous amount of sexism and misogyny in other countries, but I think that there is a problem in the US of thinking that we have it, we're so much better than other countries. We don't have sexism here, like those poor women over there. I think that's really condescending, and I think that it's really untrue. Yes, women in the US have made tremendous progress, and women in other countries, depending on what country you're talking about, do have less rights. That's absolutely true. But fighting for justice is not a zero-sum game. And you can fight for gender justice and you can fight for feminism here while also fighting for it abroad. You don't have to do one or the other, and that's okay. The last thing I would say is, you're going to have to realize, and this is sort of a hard lesson to learn, and it's a hard lesson that I had to learn, you're not always going to change everyone's mind, right? No matter how much effort you put into it or energy you put into it or how much you care about this person, there's always going to be someone who's just always going to think what they think. And sometimes you have to accept that, and that sort of sucks, but it is what it is. That said, even if you're not sort of changing their mind and shifting their position in a really explicit, obvious way, I do think that you are opening that person's mind in a way. So even if you feel like you're not making any headway with a particular person, I promise you that the next time they hear a rape joke or the next time someone brings up feminism or sexism, your voice is going to kind of be in the back of their head saying something. So, even when you feel really disheartened about your relationship with someone in terms of feminism and sexism, try to remember that the stuff that you say to them, the conversations that you have, do make a difference. Even if it's a small difference, it does make an impact. So thanks very much. I hope that that's helpful, and keep talking up feminism with the people in your lives. Thanks.